Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Happy Friday. Welcome to the program. If you want to join us live on the telephone, 833-482-5337, 8334-Valdez. And it's starting to look good for Joe Biden. Yep. Not in every sense, right? In one sense, 538, that's Nate Silver's group, I believe. They have some election analysis going on here saying it's very close, but Biden is still favored despite the debate disaster, with Biden coming in at 51%, Trump at 49%. This is reported on Breitbart.com. And I think this is interesting, right? This is the first time we're seeing him do really, really well. You know, I shouldn't say really well, but better than losing. and it's tight and obviously within the margin of error. But that's the story there. Now, on the front where it's not so good for Joe El Baboso Biden, you got a bunch of groups of donors. In fact, the donors to his largest super PAC, which is about $90 million in pledges, have been frozen. That's not good. So you got some of these major Democrat donors have told the largest pro-Biden super PAC, it's called Future Forward, that roughly $90 million in pledge donations are now on hold if President Biden remains at the top of the ticket. And that's according to a couple of people who've been briefed on these conversations and leaked that information. The frozen contributions include multiple 8-figure commitments, according to the two people who spoke on condition of anonymity and the quote-unquote sensitivity of the situation. The decision to withhold these huge sums of money is one of the most concrete examples of the fallout from Joe El Baboso Biden's poor debate performance. And I think that's obviously coupled with things like Vice President Trump and President Putin, right? Calling Zelensky President Putin. So I don't know if this is going to happen or not. I think there's also pressure coming here from Democrats that are, desperate to win, and I don't blame them. I'd probably be in the same boat if our candidate, let's just say El Trompito Donaldus Magnus, the 45th president of these United States, let's just say the shoe was on the other foot, and all of a sudden he was pulling a Biden, like I was yesterday on the radio. I couldn't get my head in the game, right? Just imagine that. I would be like, man, all right, so somebody tell El Trompito it's time to go play golf all day. It's not time to be in the White House. Not time to be making deals. That time has come and gone. That ship has sailed. So I don't know if they're doing anything wrong, but you've got a number of Democrats that are taking exception here. Let's see. Do we remember her? Valdez Demings. She is a congresswoman from Florida, and she was on MSNBC today. And she says 3 people can't be president, right? Trump, Biden, or Kamala can't be all 3. Listen to this.
There are 3 people who could be the next president of the United States. Donald John Trump, who has been found liable for sexual assault, stole classified documents, I'm sure, for personal gain, multiple indictments, multiple felony convictions. There's Joe Biden, who has proven every day that he can do the job by doing the job every day. And, to say that, well, my God, what will happen in 3 or 4 years? Well, we don't know with any elected official what they will do in office in 3 or 4 years. The third possibility is Vice President Harris. And I truly believe that Vice President Harris is capable of leading us to the next level and also carrying on Joe Biden's legacy.
That sounds like an endorsement if I've ever heard one. So Val Deming's coming through for Que Mala Eres. Now, Que Mala Eres is the vice president of the United States, and she's inching closer and closer to becoming president. But she can only pull it off, truly pull it off, right, if Joe is on board. If he sits there and coronates her and says, you know what? In my final act as president, I am going to make sure this country gets its first woman president. And to top it off, it's going to be a woman of color. That's it. I think that solidifies him as a hero in the eyes of the left. He can fade off into the sunset, feeling good about himself and his legacy and his ego. And she will legitimately be president of the United States. So if she had any sense, she would go to her friends or enemies or whomever they are, her colleagues, the cabinet, and say, look, guys, more probable than not, I can become president of the United States. I am way more valuable to you if I'm president than if I'm not. True or false, right? She can cut deals with them and say, look, I can give you this. I can give you that. I can, you can do a little horse trading when you're president. You have power, but you got to help me get Joe out of here. Now, I understand some people are saying you can't pull the 25th Amendment card because somebody hasn't had a stroke or they're not, mentally incapacitated. But honestly, this is the United States. You leak a few things to the media and all of a sudden everything's a big deal, right? Just like Biden's been flubbing and earning his name El Baboso for years. And yet it wasn't until 2 weeks ago Friday that all of a sudden he has a bad performance at a debate. He has a bad performance every single day. It's just they chose to report on it. They did their job as they were told to do their job by whomever they were told to do it by. So if she goes to them and says, hey, Pete Buttigieg, look, the odds of you doing anything after this of real consequence are slim. You might have a shot at running for president later, but right now, nobody knows you. It's not happening. However, if you join me in this mutiny, this coup, the 25th Amendment, getting rid of Joe El Baboso Biden, well, maybe we can work something out. Maybe I can get you on the ticket with me. Maybe this, maybe that. Right? Go to the next cabinet person. Say, what do you need? And this is Washington. This is the land of cutting deals. Why isn't Kamala Harris cutting these deals with everybody she can cut a deal with so that she can get the support to push him out? All she needs to do is have a meeting and say, hey, look, I'm here with Secretary so-and-so, Secretary so-and-so, and Secretary so-and-so. And they're on board with me. Joe, I don't want to do this publicly. I don't want to embarrass you. I don't want to say, look, President Biden clearly is not in the right mental state. We have two wars going on that we are tangentially involved with our situation with Ukraine, our adopted country, and with Israel, our ally. And she can turn to the media and do this, and the media will eat it up. And it's, yeah, you know what, you're right. Let's do it. So I think she has enough leverage if she could just get a couple of people on board with her. And then she calls Barack, and then he says, Joe, let me be clear. We love you, Joe. We love you. And he gets him to push him a little bit more, and then boom. Now, listen, I'm painting a picture here. I'm a radio guy, not a politician. But that's what I would do if I was in Washington. And I would get Joe Biden out of there, and I'd become president. Because guess what? When you're president, it's a lot easier to win than if you're not. Now, that doesn't mean that she's going to be Trump. Quite frankly, it doesn't mean anything. But I think it does give her some platform to run on as president. There are going to be people that are emotionally moved, just like when they voted for Barack Obama, because we're going to have our first black president. People who didn't know who he was, people who hadn't voted in him forever, but that said, you know what? I want to be part of this historic election. I want to say I voted for that guy, whether they liked him or not, whether they knew him or not. And the same opportunities here. Now, some of you are thinking, Rich, why are you giving all this good advice to the Democrats? Because the ones that listen, you hear them when they call in. They're of no consequence, right? They don't run the country. They're not Joe and AOC and the rest of these guys. And those that are able to make a decision about this, they don't listen to the show. So it doesn't matter. But anyway, those are my questions and what I would do. So I'm wondering if that's going to happen. We'll stay tuned. Anyway, I want to talk about Joe Biden's performance or lack thereof with a licensed clinical psychologist and former congressman coming up straight ahead. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
By the way, your ratings are up. Congratulations, everybody. It's always nice to check. I like to see, even if they're friends, I like to see how are they doing. Are people listening, right?
That's
but
right.
You're doing great.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Still feel that way? Is this still elder abuse after what you saw in the press conference tonight?
Well, yes, I believe if you love Joe Biden, never should have sent him out on that stage that night. I mean, imagine if that was your father, your grandfather, or whatever. It was heartbreaking to watch a person freeze like that. It wasn't about the gaffes or flubs or whatever. It was about clearly something was wrong. And if you have parents or grandparents, if you're over 50 years old, you've seen what the decline looks like. And you can't, as George Clooney said yesterday, you can't tell 51 million people who watched what we saw that didn't happen. It happened, and you can't unsee it.
That is the voice of Michael Moore. You remember Michael Moore, the Fahrenheit 9/11 propagandist, and he's right here. He's right here, and he was also right about his Trump prediction a while back. And what's interesting about this is he says it's not about the flubs, but I think the flubs are very serious, right? You remember one of the flubs, and I have nothing but enjoyment in playing some of these clips, when he says that he chose Vice President Trump because he believes she can be president. Listen to this.
I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president. So let's start there.
You gotta love that. Anyway, I laugh and I call him El Baboso, but I don't mean to be cynical or mean. I mean to be a little bit entertaining and a little bit provocative, but I really do wish him well. And I want to get a better understanding of what is going on with Joe El Baboso Biden and what those that know more than me think of the situation. So I want to enlist the support of Dr. Tim Murphy. Dr. Tim Murphy was a congressman for the 18th district in Pennsylvania. He's also the author of The Christ Cure. And he specializes in post-traumatic stress disorders. And I want to really talk about this at length, not just Biden, but really about the book and about PTSD in general, because I think there's so many segues to different things here. Dr. Tim Murphy, welcome, sir.
It's great to be with you. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. So you obviously, I'm sure you've seen the debate. You've heard the clips. You've seen them on social media if you're watching. What's your initial reaction to what happened, not only at the debate, but more so at this big boy NATO conference?
Well, it was sad, not surprising. I think when 50 million people tuned in to the debate, they wanted to see what they suspected they would see with regard to Biden's deterioration. We've been getting snippets of it from clips in social media, some on broadcast media, although a lot of that had been filtered. But people were concerned about it. Many of the gaffes and jokes flooded Instagram and other places like that. So it was almost like slowing down to look at an auto accident in process. People wanted to see that. When it came to the issue of the NATO summit and the press conference afterwards, again, this was an important thing for people to see because we wanted to know, can he be president? Could use all the excuses out there for the debate. He was tired, overscheduled, overprepared. But when it came to the NATO summit, that's where we knew there was high stakes. The issue is a person not just able to handle their day-to-day activities, but that they handle the duties of president and leader of the most important country in the world. And this is where I think America is deeply concerned, although President Biden did hold it together. He was probably operating a lot on basic memory of using political phrases he'd been using for the last 30 or 40 years, much like someone else who may have a deteriorating condition. They could just go back on automatic pilot of previous phrases. But when you look at the number of people who are piling on now and saying they want him out, this is what I think is doubly painful to watch. The clip you just played, saying it was difficult to watch him deteriorate. It's like when we watch our relatives, our grandparents struggling in nursing home or memory care. And we know they're not what they used to be. And they have lapses of times they're very coherent and cogent, and times they are not. But look at what happened, what triggered the media. Suddenly, they didn't just discover this on the night of the debate. This isn't a sudden thing, because they would have been surprised. Like, what happened that night? It was clear that they knew all along. For the New York Times, the Boston Globe, the Washington Post, all these papers to suddenly make a statement wasn't some sudden brilliant flash of knowledge. They were finally had to admit that cognitive dissonance was so massive they couldn't ignore it anymore. And so the issue became then for politicians saying, gee, we may lose elections over this. So what's heartbreaking is it's about power. It's about elections. It's not about a human being who's deteriorating. And that's frightening.
You know, Congressman Dr. Murphy, I agree with everything you just said. But I want to pick your brain a little bit, because it wasn't like you were a one-term congressman. You spent more than a decade in Washington and in the State House in Pennsylvania before that. So politics is not something that's new to you. And do you think, does this strike you as new, or as, people being opportunistic and lacking empathy? Isn't that always part and parcel of politics, or are you seeing a shift?
Oh, it is part and parcel of politics. It's a brutal sport. Was it once said that if you want a friend in Washington, get a dog? Tip O'Neill famously said that. It is lonely. It is brutal. You're on your own. Your colleagues say, I'm right behind you, 10 miles behind you, but I'm right behind you. People will turn on you in a moment where you can be doing great and people want a photo op with you. You fail, you flub, which we all do as human beings. I've had my own failures, and people want to distance themselves from you. So it's no place to look towards friends. But given that, there are some great people, some brilliant people that I've met over the years in the House and Senate, not only at the federal level, but the state level. There's some brilliant people. They don't always have the fancy sound bites. They don't always get in the air, but there's smart people there that hold it together. But there's also the brutality of elections, which in some ways you think is getting worse and worse. But if you read American history, there's been a lot of nasty things done to people over the years, and I suspect it'll continue. But now you have the instantaneous response from social media, and nothing disappears anymore. You can instantly do a search and find things. I look upon these things as the levels when we're viewing how anybody's doing. But let's look at the issue of president. People make decisions based upon power. Some people want that power. They will do whatever they need to do to get that power. That can be in the business world. That can be on the one-on-one level at someone's household. That can be on teams. But it'd be lots of different levels there. But they can also look at politics and personality and policy. Right. And some of those are helpful and some are not.
Folks, we're coming right back with Dr. Tim Murphy, former congressman, PhD level psychologist, and very interesting insight here, both politically and psychologically. We're going to talk about his book, The Christ Cure, and another book he wrote, Overcoming Passive Aggression, when we come back. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
The best guests, the best opinions. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
If you're standing up, if you are a Democrat right now and you're standing up and you're saying that Joe Biden is not fit to run for office and therefore should not be in office in January, you're saying he's also not fit to be president right now. What the hell are you doing? You are going.
I don't think
You are
that's what
going.
it's-
That is what you're saying, because you're telling voters that he does not have the chops to be president for the next
actually
4
don't-
years,
I don't-
starting in January.
Oh, that is a guy named Basil Smikle. I think that's how you say it. Smikle. Smikle. Anyway, he's going at it with Jen Circle Back Psaki, silent P, of course. And he's saying exactly what you heard him say. If you don't think Biden should run for re-election, you're saying Biden's not good enough for president right now. I think that's a fair and accurate assessment, not necessarily an open and shut case, but I think most people have seen the truth. The writing's on the wall. He's no good. And a lot of us are going through our own, issues with seeing the country in this direction, whether you think you're having this fear that Trump will come and destroy democracy, or worse, Biden could get reelected and really destroy democracy. So I want to wrap up the point that we were making on the political conversation with our guest, Dr. Tim Murphy, former congressman from Pennsylvania and author of The Christ Cure. And then I want to talk a little bit more about the books as well. So, Congressman, welcome back. And you were making a point about people making plays for power. And ultimately, I think that's politics by definition, right? Influencing the balance of power.
Sure it is. And so that's what a lot of politics is. It's a balance of power, and things are done in campaigns and backroom meetings, et cetera, in order to preserve that power. One would hope, the American people, we would all hope, that decisions are also made on what is the best policy for our nation and for the world.
Right.
But if power takes precedence over policy, then a lot of mistakes are made, a lot of selfish decisions are made, and people suffer from that. There's no perfect policy decision out there, but when we look at what's been happening the last 4 years, for example, with grocery prices up, 25%, gasoline prices up, those are things that mean a lot to people on everyday issues. I don't know who cares. I don't care who's president. They may say, I do care that I cannot afford this anymore. So there's policy issues there. What happens in campaigns, what also gets mixed up is personality. I like the guy. I don't like the guy. I'm frightened of this, or he's going to bring down democracy, whatever those things are. But the other issue here, where our hearts really are strained, is the personal level. That could be any of us. That could be any of us in a few years or later, where people are demanding we have tests done. The tests for dementia are not that hard to administer. There's a test called the SAGE test, S-A-G-E. People can look that up online. It takes about 10 or 15 minutes to do yourself. And it's asking a number of things. Do you know what month and day or year it is? Do you have some simple math skills, like if you spend $1.65, how much change you get back from $5? Things like that. Could Biden pass those? Probably. Could Trump pass those? Probably. What also one has to look at is the impact of the decision someone has. And this is where it frightens. But I look upon this as I worry that already youth don't vote. Youth don't read. Youth don't look at the news. They do not get that information. And so if we're just looking at little tweets, I still call them tweets, or little Instagram messages out there, then shame on all of us that we're not looking at this all in depth and the impact of these things for the good of our country and our future.
Yeah, I think that's a solid point. And to put a finer point on this, I guess, for at least to help me understand it better, I feel like, again, I'm 46. I've never been through something like this. I know that they covered up FDR being in a wheelchair, and there's talk about JFK having serious back issues, and nobody knew he wore a back brace, and all sorts of stuff like that. But I've never seen anything like that, right? For the most part, everything was pretty on the up and up. Reagan was forgetting stuff. You saw it. Carter's really old. He's old. These things are all, I think, pretty commonplace and transparent. But I'd never seen something like this where there was really a cover-up on how bad Biden was doing. And those in the know, sure, you knew. Everybody else is now coming to light, right? People who are apolitical in my circle of friends that, intentionally avoid any talk of politics because they disagree with me and want to remain my friend. Now they're bringing up political topics like, can you believe what's going on with Biden? And it's just, I find it so interesting because here we are, and I'm thinking, is this because this is affecting, I don't know if it's such a thing, but the national psyche. Are people experiencing some sort of stress from this where it's troubling them? It seems to me like they are, but what do I know?
Yeah, when Woodrow Wilson, when President Wilson was president, he had a stroke, and it really incapacitated him. Great deal of trouble thinking, moving about, partially paralyzed, trouble speaking. His wife basically ran the country and kept it covered up for him. There was, and the media at that time, the press, which did not have the access they do today, didn't know that. You would now have a situation where people did know. Willfully ignorant is different from being ignorant. And what happened is this tipping point of cognitive dissonance when people say, I can't hide these anymore. A lot of people would say, President Biden, greatest president of all, look at the policies he's passed, things are wonderful. And they didn't even see it. I believe many people didn't see it. Now it's out there. And so the idea when we reach that tipping point, we can no longer ignore it. We will do the same things with our own relatives, hopefully with ourselves when we have those moments of life to say, I need to change. But where we are now, politically, what's interesting in all this is President Trump has spent much of his time campaigning against Joe Biden. I thought a year ago that President Biden would not make it through July. He may not. And if that's the case, the Republicans and Trump has to really change their strategy and talk about the policy issues again and not the personality issues. Let's see what happens with that. That needs to be the focus. We'll see.
Well put. Well put. And I think you're right, because if there's too much focus on Biden himself, once he's gone, then it's like, all right, problem solved. Let's vote for the next best Democrat. And clearly, you have to attack the policy, and I think that's the right way to go. Now, I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about your book, not the first book, I guess the second book that I see here, Overcoming Passive Aggression. And
yes.
I find it to be an interesting topic. I know I've seen some of your work and the work that you did in Congress as part of the committees you served on and some of your work in the Navy. But tell me specifically how you fell on this topic of passive aggression, because I find it interesting. And I meet people like this all the time that, they're kind of like, 1 minute they're okay, and the next minute they're like, what? And there's a little passive aggression there. And it's like, hey, where'd that come from? So I'm just curious.
Well, passive aggressive is basically you can hurt someone or change a situation by not doing anything. That by withholding information or by intentionally giving misinformation, gaslighting, always without really attacking the person, you could throw them off and have them lose. It's interesting when I wrote this book with my co-author, Lorianne Oberlin, first edition, and then rewrote it again while I was in Congress. And when it came out, I gave a copy to President Trump, and I wrote in there, Mr. President, this is your guide to Congress, like a field guide. And he said, let's take a picture. So we held the book and posed for it. And he said, now tweet that out, you'll sell 2 million copies. I didn't tweet it out. But it is true that members of Congress can care deeply for one another. It's some wonderful people. But they also have a knack of someone saying, hey, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, could you move my bill? Oh, yes, I'd love to move your bill. Let me see what I can do about that. I'll get back to you. With no intention of moving it or thinking they want something else to go in order. And you just wish sometimes someone be honest with you. It's interesting what President Trump said. We were in a meeting to talk about the repeal and replace bill. And he said that some members of the Freedom Caucus had just left his cabinet room, I think we're meeting in. And he said, I don't understand this. We shook on it. They all agreed to vote with me on this bill, but they called me on the way back to the Capitol and said they changed their mind. And I said, welcome to Washington. That's going to happen. Here's my book. But in all of our lives, what I see, whether it's in work relationships, personal relationships, marriages, between friends, whatever that is, people can do a lot of harm and a lot of damage by withholding or being passive in things. Passive aggression isn't yelling and screaming and fighting someone, but it's a way of trying to manipulate a person's emotions or their thoughts or spiritually, whatever that is, and take control of their lives, weaken them that way. So it's a guide to really help people through some very difficult times. That, another book I wrote called The Angry Child, it's focusing on what's the worst things that we do to each other. How do we harm and destroy each other? We're all guilty of this. We've all been. victims of this, but these are ways to give people their field guide to understand not just Congress, not just politics, but really understand how we get out of this trap with each other.
Outstanding. Folks, we're on with Dr. Tim Murphy, his website, drtimmurphy.com, and he's the author of Overcoming Passive Aggression, How to Stop Hidden Anger from Spoiling Your Relationships, Career, and Happiness. He's got a number of books. You should check out the page and buy as many as you can, as many as you need. This is definitely one of those things you can give away to somebody. It might tick a few people, but it might help them out as well. Stick with us. We're coming right back with Dr. Tim Murphy.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Across America to the liberty-loving Latino, Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We continue our conversation with former Congressman Dr. Tim Murphy. And Dr. Tim Murphy, in the time that we have remaining, I want to get your take on a couple of things. One is we see the cognitive issues that Biden's going through. I feel like the country is in a, I'm going to say like a state of panic. Maybe that's hyperbolic, but maybe a state of not feeling very assured. And I guess from a mental health perspective, how do you advise those listening who are freaking out? And I only say that because I look at my inbox messages, and people usually send me things like, oh, yeah, I love that guest. It was great. Or I love what you said. But lately it's more like, oh, my gosh, what do we do? I'm really afraid. What if Michelle Obama runs? Everybody seems to be so scared. How do we allay some of those fears?
That's a brilliant question. And this is pervasive across America, perhaps globally. But when we can handle a lot of stress in our lives, when there's difficulties, whatever that is, if we feel there is hope for the future, and that is we may not be able to see over the horizon to know what's coming, but we believe things will be better. We have a generation of kids who do not believe things will be better for them than it was for their parents, and their parents feel the same thing. And so leadership is extremely important for that. Post-COVID and during COVID, it really was traumatizing for our nation, where all the rules change. People don't know what the truth is anymore, whether it's selection of gender or what is the real economic numbers or what's coming across the border or who's in charge or what's the next war coming on. People feel, I don't know the answers anymore. And when you see institutions out there now attacking churches, attacking Christians, attacking people of faith, that's a huge concern. When I wrote my book, The Christ Cure, it really is about helping people with trauma understand that there are ways to heal. Now, I focus a lot on veterans and first responders, but I really wrote this book for those who are feeling broken and the people who love them. And so it really is applicable to our whole nation now when we're struggling to say, how do I overcome this? Where is their truth? Where is their hope? I'm a big believer knowing that what psychology, a lot of research tells us that people can handle a lot more stress and problems in their life who are religious versus those who are not religious. There's some real answers to that. But we've become so secular and so anti-religious in this nation, we've taken away the very strengths of what people need to help them get better. And that concerns me.
Yeah, well, it concerns me too. So if I'm hearing you right, it sounds like I'm not alone in hearing people freaking out. And B, people need some sort of hope that they can hold on to. And they also need to be, it's okay to have a relationship with God, that they should not be so secular. They should consider not being so secular. With this overcoming of PTSD, is that the general advice, or do you delve more into the scripture?
The subtitle is The Christ Cure: 10 Biblical Ways to Heal from Trauma, Tragedy, and PTSD. What I do is I go through a lot of stories, whether it's my own personal failings, whether it's some political stories, some from my time in the Navy, people I've known. And I look at people who have struggled, their lives have fallen apart, but rebuilt their lives. I also track through their biblical lessons to the life of the Apostle Paul, who had 20 or 30 major traumas. You know, he was beaten with rods 3 times, whipped 39 lashes 5 times, stoned and left for dead, sentenced to death, put in prison. He should have had every symptom of PTSD, but he didn't. And this is really the first book that says, why didn't he? And what I see in there is tremendous strength and a mentor we need for our time. That instead of looking to, we're going to be inundated with campaign commercials. $2 billion will be spent over the next 3 months convincing us that the world is coming to an end and trying to play on our fear. It will be very anxiety-provoking for us. And I think we have to equip ourselves with the tools of resiliency prior to these traumas, resistance in the battle to give us endurance and persistence, but the things that come with recovery, and that is hope, and that is a belief and faith and trust that things will get better. It ain't going to happen through politics unless we guide politics. We don't have to be victims to it. We need to be leaders to it and push for the policies.
Outstanding. Really well put. Congressman Dr. Tim Murphy, I really want to thank you for being here. Really, really enlightening conversation. It could probably go on for another half hour or hour, but that's our time today. I have drtimmurphy.com as the website. Is that the best place for people to purchase your books and keep up to speed with your work?
Yes, it's DR, so it's Dr. abbreviated, drtimmurphy.com. I post other articles I've written in podcasts, et cetera, there. I'd love to hear from people, and let's keep the conversation going. But I want to say it's a real honor to be on your show. Thank you for being a voice of reason.
Oh, thank you. Well, we'll definitely do it again soon. Godspeed, sir.
God bless. Bye now.
All right. Folks, we're coming right back with your calls and more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. This is America. This is Night. This is Rich Valdez.
Do you think that President Biden can beat Donald Trump?
No, I don't. And I think, frankly, up until the debate, I wanted to believe that was possible. But like so many people who witnessed that debate, I can't unsee what I saw. And well, the press conference was certainly a dramatically improved performance. And while I agree with all of the concerns that this kind of lack of clarity and division right now in terms of who our nominee is not a good thing, I think persisting in this direction is really a huge mistake. And to be frank, it's somewhat terrifying to lots of folks who very much fear a return of Trump to the White House.
Wow. Now, that is Maggie Kulik. I think it's Kulik, Kulyk. She's a Democrat donor, and she was on CNN today saying Biden's going to lose, and it's terrifying. Now, they're not only terrified that they're going to lose, they're terrified because, you know, Trump is a threat to democracy in their world. But fascinating to me that they're being so frank. And this woman was A, eloquent, and B, honest, I believe. I've never heard Democrats admit that they're scared, but they're terrified. They're not saying they're scared of Trump. They're really scared of losing power. And that's the only way I could frame this. And I think we just spent the last hour kind of talking about that. So the Dems are running scared because Kamala Harris has been replaced by Vice President Trump. And Zelensky's been replaced by Ukrainian President Putin. Anyway, folks, we're going to continue the conversation straight ahead. We got a lot to discuss. You know, there's a shortage on Adderall. We're going to get to that and a lot more. Don't go anywhere. I am Rich Valdez.
from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Your liberty-loving Latino amigo, happy to be here with you this Friday evening. Welcome to the program. It's hour number 2, if you're just joining us, and the phone number, if you want to join us on our late-night national town hall conversation, give us a call, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez, and Joe Biden obviously had this big boy press conference, as it was referred to yesterday. And after he made these, I'm going to go with the word they're using, flubs, he was asked some follow-up questions from members of the media on all sorts of things. And he went into some topics, right? Whether it be what type of weaponry he's going to provide for Israel or not. And in one exchange, you know, he says that he supports Israel, but their war cabinet is very conservative. In another one, he says he's not providing any 2,000-pound bombs to Israel. Listen to this.
And all this criticism about I wouldn't provide when the weapons they needed. I'm not providing 2,000-pound bombs. They cannot be used in Gaza or any populated area without causing great human tragedy and damage. But remember what happened when you had the attack on Israel with rockets and ballistic missiles. I was able to unite the Arab nations as well as Europe, and nothing happened. Nothing got hurt. It sent an incredible lesson to what was going on from the Middle East. So there's a lot of things, in retrospect, I wish I had been able to convince the Israelis to do. But the bottom line is we have a chance now. It's time to end this war. It doesn't mean walk away from going after Sinwar and Hamas. And if you notice, you know better than most, there is a growing dissatisfaction on the West Bank from the Palestinians about Hamas. Hamas is not popular now. And so there's a lot of moving parts. I just have to keep moving to make sure that we get as much done as we can toward a ceasefire, and get those. And by the way, look at the numbers in Israel. I mean, my numbers are better in Israel than they are here. But then again, they're better than a lot of other people here, too. But anyway.
Oh, boy. I don't even know where to start with this one, but I'll say this. He says, look at Hamas. Hamas isn't popular now. Was Hamas ever popular? I mean, the things that he says. And has he been to an American college campus? Because clearly Hamas is extraordinarily popular there. But all of this is coming from the president who botched the Afghanistan withdrawal, who and some have taken exception to me saying that. I say it's botched because it cost the lives of 13 American service members that most argue did not need to happen. And Biden is no pro when it comes to foreign policy. And oftentimes, just yesterday, there was some audio of him. He doesn't even know he's commander-in-chief. He called the Joint Chief of Staffs, the general, the commander-in-chief. He's just all over the place. And you would think that he would know what these titular responsibilities are. But it seems like he's just lost all the time on so many fronts. And speaking of Afghanistan, I wanted to get an in-depth look at something. Because a while back, there was a group of Marines that were falsely accused of gunning down innocent Afghan civilians after they were ambushed. And these commandos got in trouble, and this became a huge deal. And one of those Marines is with us tonight. Major Fred Galvin was summarily relieved of his duty, and his unit was booted out of the combat zone. They were condemned by everyone from the Afghan president to the American generals. And when Fox Company returned to America, Galvin and his captain were the targets of the first court of inquiry in the Marines in 50 years. So I want to get to the bottom of that with retired United States Marine Corps Major Fred Galvin. Welcome, sir.
Thank you for having me, Rich. It's a pleasure to be your guest.
Likewise. Thank you for being here. And folks, I just wanted to give you the title of the book. He's written a book. It's called A Few Bad Men, The True Story of U.S. Marines Ambushed in Afghanistan and Betrayed in America. Fred Galvin, tell us, how does this whole thing start? Where were you? Set the scene a little bit so we have context.
Absolutely. I'll give us some of the wave tops because to begin with, everybody knows the Marines. To be a United States Marines, it's a cut above. It's not joining the National Guard, nothing against that, but it's a higher standard of training. It's a higher standard of commitment. If you're going to conduct amphibious assault and go across the beach, we don't want those faint of heart, weak or weary. But right after we were attacked on 9/11, then the former and late Secretary of Defense, Don Rumsfeld, gave orders to all the service chiefs of the military branches to increase the capacity of Special Operations Forces. And the Marine Corps was the only one that did not obey that order. They did this, I won't call it experiment because it actually happened in World War II, where they had the Marine Raiders. They fought in the South Pacific from 1942 to 1944. And while they were fighting, with the same president in office, they had a new commandant, senior Marine leader, come in and say, with a stroke of a pen, it's not in the best interest of the Marine Corps to have an elite within an elite. And they disbanded it, and they've never wanted anything again. Not in 1987, after the failed hostage rescue attempt in Tehran, where they said we're going to consolidate all our Special Operations Forces so we have interoperability and this will never happen again like what happened in Desert One. But Donald Rumsfeld was serious about this after 9/11, and the Marine Corps slow-rolled it, ignored him. But guess what? President 43 was not like his father, and he did get reelected. So Bush Jr. Got reelected, kept Rumsfeld as his Secretary of Defense, and Rumsfeld ordered the Marine Corps, make it happen. They organized, and we were the very first Marine Special Operations Task Force that organized and deployed, and they put us, the very first deployment, our combat deployment, which I was a commanding officer of, they put us in eastern Afghanistan, specifically in the Tora Bora Mountains, where Osama bin Laden was last seen. And as Marine commandos, we are not taking the order lightly to conduct aggressive combat operations. So we hit the ground running, doing everything we could to sort out the enemy. And people did not like that, Rich. You very well understand there, down the road in Washington, D.C., the deep state, the swamp, the lowest part of that is right there in the Pentagon. Many people wanted this forever war, which was that, and that was the intention, and that basically got that. And although President Trump, wanted a condition-based withdrawal, and I'm sure you heard Representative Wesley Hunt say, hey, this is how Trump was in the room with the Taliban, and he said, if a single hair is hurt on the head of an American during this withdrawal, I will kill you. And President Trump reached in his pocket, got a satellite image, handed it to the Taliban leader, told the translator to translate that, and guess what? We didn't have, for 18 months, any Americans harmed in Afghanistan. That's
something.
The Reagan, that's the Reagan era strength through power, or power through strength, and peace through strength. Yeah. We lack that now. And I do want to get on to what happened to us, but I also want to get to when we left Afghanistan. This is important. And this is what happens when we are on the international stage, whether it's Kim Jong-un, Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin, whether it's Houthi rebels who are being armed because we gave $6 billion back to Iran, who are funding these militias in Iraq and Syria, where we still have our special operations forces and we've been attacked 200 times. When we are looked at as weak and feckless by our military leaders, especially the commander-in-chief, and who I wonder, like you had mentioned in your monologue, that you got to wonder who's running the show when there's these goofs, and especially when the president's senior cabinet member in the Pentagon, the Secretary of Defense, goes unauthorized absence the first week of the year and fumbles and lies and says he's working from home and he's in the hospital, but doesn't. You got to ask, who is running the show? Who's calling the shots? Because it wasn't the Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, that first week, but things are still happening. And likewise, if we have a president that's lost control of his faculties, he's the commander-in-chief, America deserves answers as far as who's running the show in the White House and in the Pentagon, because this is what happened last weekend. The Chinese seized a Taiwanese fishing vessel, just like they did with the Filipinos. Well, they harassed a Filipino. These are our allies that they're pushing around. The Filipino vessel in April didn't get coverage, but we've had 2 American-flagged MSC container ships hit with missiles by the Houthi rebels this year, and the media is failing to pick these up. But the reason I bring these up, Rich, is when we're weak and we're not handing a satellite photo saying, Rich, I'm saying this figuratively, I'm going to kill you if this happens, then there's no consequences. We are being pushed around, and these same generals that wanted us deposed, and they got their will because we were over there in Afghanistan to end the war as quickly as we could. They went on, and the gentleman who was the convening authority, that's basically like the judge, the final authority in this, was then Lieutenant General James Mattis. We all know Mad Dog Mattis went on to, he went on to get his 4-star, but he's also was a board member of 4 boards as soon as he retired, one being Theranos. We are very well aware what happened with Elizabeth Holmes being indicted, and she recruited Mad Dog to be on the board to get access to the Pentagon. All these 4-stars, if they retire out of Tampa in charge of Central Command, all the Middle East wars, or out of the Pentagon, they have access placement to the Pentagon, as well as they have inroads with members of the HASC and the SASC. But all these people in the book, the former Commandant of the Marine Corps, James Dunford, he's at Lockheed Martin, just like General Mattis is at General Dynamics. And there's incentives. If people are saying, why did we leave billions of dollars of military material in Afghanistan? They're like the 14th largest equipped army in the world now. But it's okay if your purpose is to resupply our own military supplies, whether it's arming ourselves again or providing billions of dollars to where the Pentagon now can't even keep track of the accounting of the billions that we have spent in Ukraine. And people say, well, at least we're not fighting it. But do we need to fight this? There are countries.
Major, I want to pause you real quick, just so we got to take a quick pause, and we're going to come right back, because I think you're making an excellent point on why are we spending so much. We should be strong, but we should also be smart. Folks, we're coming right back with retired Major Fred Galvin.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Congratulations on just an amazing show. I know you've worked so hard in the industry, and nobody deserves it more than you do. So I'm happy to see you really succeeding here. It's awesome.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, America, welcome back. We continue our conversation with our guest, Major Fred Galvin, retired from the United States Marine Corps. He's the author of the book, A Few Bad Men, The True Story of U.S. Marines Ambushed in Afghanistan and Betrayed in America. And Major, before the break, you mentioned how we left all of this equipment in Afghanistan, And conveniently, or seemingly conveniently, those that were part of that decision as part of leadership in the Department of Defense are now at these same military contractors that stand to reap the benefit and profit and reward of replacing this equipment or producing it to sell to someone else. And it's an interesting point because we had a former Secretary of Defense, Chris Miller, on this program who said the same thing. And he felt that we often overpaid for a lot of things that we don't need to overpay for, but we do. And what I got from that was, I guess, a general sense that the military-industrial complex is raping the taxpayer. And that's probably true with a lot of government contracts. Is that a fair statement?
It is, and when, more importantly, we're seeing all these tensions in Northeast Asia. They may not get reported a lot, and if that war starts, that's not going to be something small like that we can do through a proxy. China invades Taiwan, and we have to dislodge China. That is going to require amphibious airborne operations, tens of thousands of Americans dying, billions will go into this forever war. We have to prevent that through deterrence. And the only way we're going to do that is with leaders who are uncompromised. What we see right now, and the one thing in this book, A Few Bad Men, that I want to, another point is the lawfare that you're seeing go on with President Trump being hauled into court in Georgia, Florida, New York, his allies, Peter Navarro, Steve Bannon being incarcerated. If they can do that to the president, if they can do that to his allies, when you read this book and see what they did to us, we fought our way out of this complex ambush. We were hit with a car bomb, flanked on both sides, sniper fire, obstacle, a car got dragged across the roads, we were swarmed at.
Wow.
We killed all the Taliban that was there, and then they said the Taliban used this information warfare to spin it, saying there were women and children, that we were drunk, that we got out of our vehicles, went door to door, all this malarkey. But the generals wanted to believe that. They wanted to get rid of, and that is eating your own. And if they can do that type of lawfare against, and you read this book and you see how they dogpiled, Mad Dog Mattis sent 45 criminal investigators, 4 prosecuting attorneys. They ethnically targeted some of these Marines who had legally immigrated thinking they'd have weak point, and they did get one to sign a statement that was different than the one he signed in Afghanistan. He swore to it on the stand. But you read this book, and it took me 11 years fighting in court twice to get this transcript declassified, and you're reading these quotes and like, my God, how can we do this to our Marines, to American Marines that fought their way out of a complex ambush where we were outnumbered? We only had one guy get wounded, and then they turn this whole thing around on us. But when we have leaders who are compromised, this isn't a fairy tale. This happened to me in the Marines that I commanded, and there has been the Pentagon, it took them 12 years, and the Department of the Navy actually had 2 female general counsels that signed this thing the day after Mattis left office, but it needs to get corrected. Rich, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Major, I want to thank you. I wish we had more time, but folks, you got to get a copy of the book. Get 2 copies. A Few Bad Men, the true story of U.S. Marines ambushed in Afghanistan and betrayed in America. Major Fred Galvin, you're a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot. I thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Rich. God bless.
Godspeed. Folks, we're coming right back. Don't go anywhere.
He's brown, he's bald, and he's breaking it down. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. And our scheduled guest is playing hooky. So if we do get him, maybe we'll bring him on. If not, maybe we won't. But I want to continue because the show must go on. And part of what I want to discuss is, hold on, just double checking my breaking news stuff here. Part of what I want to talk about is this Biden stuff. Is this really the end for Joe El Baboso Biden? Or is it not? I really don't know. I really thought Monday of this week would have been his last day. I really did. I thought he was going to come out and say, I'm sorry, I suck, and I'm out of here. I really did. I guess that's my own naivete. I didn't think he was going to, really make a spectacle of it. And I feel like that's what he's doing, right? He's really making a spectacle. And he's making so many poor political decisions. There's so many ways he could have done well with this. I mean, save doing it on Monday, right? I guess Monday's the first day of the Republican convention, and in the control room, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but they usually kick it off with the candidate accepting the nomination, right? And then the speeches, or do they do the speeches and then the candidate? Either way, whichever day Trump is scheduled to accept the nomination, that would be the day if I were Biden. I would say, hey, I'm bailing out. Why? To suck oxygen out of the room. To make sure Trump doesn't get all the shine. But it's like they don't think. And again, I'm not trying to help the Democrats. There's no helping them. Right? They wouldn't know a good idea if it hit them in the face. But it's just clear to me that they're just not thinking. Not thinking. Now, Joe Biden today, in a moment of, I'm going to call it clarity, he's being questioned by, let's see, who is this reporter? Peter Alexander? I think it's Peter Alexander, who's asking him questions about why, what he thinks about Trump mocking him for saying that he's not really with it and his mental capacity isn't quite there. And his response is, oh, just listen to Trump when he mocks me. Just listen to him. Listen to this.
This concludes.
Respectfully, earlier you misspoke in your opening answer. You referred to Vice President Harris as Vice President Trump. Right now, Donald Trump is using that to mock your age and your memory. How do you combat that criticism from tonight?
Listen to him.
Listen to him. I got to tell you, this guy is a real champ. A real champ. Even when they ask him tough questions, he just he tells the truth. Good old Joe El Baboso Biden. Anyway, the point of all that is I don't know what happens from here. Everybody's speculating. We had a guest on, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5, maybe 6 months ago. My ADHD gives me something they call time blindness. So honestly, I say 4 months ago, and when we find out, it could be like, 19 months ago. But we had a guest, and I think his last name was Gilbert. And he wrote this book about Michelle Obama and how she's going to be the 2024 nominee. And he makes a persuasive case, and we had him on, and, I asked whatever questions I had to ask. But what I found interesting was that, he was adamant. He's like, no, this is going down. And I still don't see it. I have my brother who engages in the dark arts of conspiracy theories. He's been telling me, I don't know, no lie, for 2017 or so, Michelle Obama's going to run against Trump. And when it was Biden and Harris, he was, no, it's going to be Michelle Obama. And here we are. And he's still saying it's going to be Michelle Obama. I don't know how so many people can, and I guess it's a waiting game, right? It's a waiting game. But what I find interesting about the folks in, good, well-intentioned, patriotic Americans that subscribe to some of these, what the left will call conspiracy theories, and I'll just call different thinking, is how long they'll stick with some of these theories. Right? I've talked to people. We actually had one person that called here and said that Trump is literally the president right now. I love Trump. But even he acknowledges he's not the president right now. That's why he's running for president. Now, they contend that this is a show and this is all run by the military and there actually are no rights and the Constitution doesn't exist anymore. And it's all the what's it called? The UCMJ, the Uniform Code of Military Justice. I mean, some of the crazy that I hear is just, it's out there. And even if it were true, it's just so out there. It's hard to make 2 and 2 make 4. Bottom line here is he's telling me it's going to be Michelle Obama, it's going to be Michelle Obama, it's going to be Michelle Obama, and the vice president is going to be Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. And because he'd seen this in a FEC filing. So I look around, I see the FEC filing. It's filed by some other person, like not a Trump campaign person. And they create a committee called Donald J. Trump and Michael, whatever his middle initial, Flynn, for 2024. And they filed these papers with the FEC, some sort of candidate petition or something like that. Not necessarily an actual candidate committee or anything like that. And this made its way all over the internet, and everybody saw it. And since they thought it was on the FEC website and they thought it was legitimate, that's it. This is it. But then General Flynn himself puts out a tweet and says, this is fake news, and I've alerted the FEC that, he's not involved. Well, that doesn't stop people who want to believe these things. So that's the rumor on the street right now, is that Trump will be running with Michael Flynn. Now, I don't believe that to be true. The other rumor on the street, if you follow the media reports, is that Trump is going to be running with J.D. Vance. I don't know if I believe that either. I don't see how J.D. Vance really helps Trump's ticket in any way. I mean, if he's looking for loyal, there's plenty of loyal out there. So I want to get your thoughts on this before we head into Open Phone America and all that. Who do you think is going to be Trump's VP pick? Who will he be announcing at next week's Republican National Convention? And what do you think about the model / influencer Amber Rose speaking at the event? And this was a bone of contention for some people, and I understand why. There's a lot of very conservative people out there that don't really appreciate what Amber Rose does for a living or how she's comported herself in the past. I get it. I do. I just also realize that the Republican Party is a big tent party. And when you're a big tent party, you get a lot, right? It's not the hegemonic approach that they have with the Democrats, where you have to all kind of subscribe to the same groupthink in order to get along or in order to have power. Where the big tent party of the Republican Party, you've got conservatives, you've got moderates, you've got liberals, you've got all sorts of people in there. And there's room for that. And I think it makes you better, right? That's where we use a line from the left. Our diversity is our strength. I believe that. Some people think it's a weakness when Republicans don't agree. I think it's the best thing ever because it shows that we're real people and we don't have to agree. And listen, I'm one of those people. In my heart of hearts, I know right from wrong. I know that certain things are possible and certain things are not possible. Certain things I would like to see, certain things that I think are right, and certain things that are wrong. And what I mean by that is I would not have chosen myself to have Amber Rose speak at this event, not because I don't like Amber Rose, but because it just wouldn't have occurred to me. Now, the fact that she is speaking at the RNC is ruffling some feathers for some people. And I respect that because these are conservative Christian people that don't like what she does, what she represents. She hosts something called I think it's called the annual Slut Walk, where she promotes the some different things. My take on it has been she's in the past maybe has promoted promiscuity. Other times maybe a very liberal approach to femininity or feminism, better put. But all of that being said, this is about nominating Trump, right, as the standard bearer. And I believe he's going to be doing that on Thursday. So at the end of the convention. Okay, got it. I'm not voting for Trump to be my pastor. or my priest. I'm voting for Trump to be the president. And I know this is a tough one for many people, and I don't want to sway their opinion. I really don't. I do want to say that if you don't like some of the populist approach that Trump takes, his stance on abortion, sending it back to the states, if you don't like his stance on gay marriage or whatever, these are things you take up with Trump. And you got to weigh, what do you agree with him on? I would venture to say you're going to agree with him on more things than you're not. And he's still going to be the best candidate out there to be president. Just hands down, I think he makes the most sense. And we shouldn't shun those that are not as conservative as one might be. We shouldn't shun people that think differently than us. Now, some are going to turn to me and say, well, Rich, if we don't have contrast between the other side, what are we doing? I will say to you, we need to have contrast in our policy. But there's an old saying that I live by. I try to. And it's, hate the sin, love the sinner, if that's the way you're looking at it. And I think that's key. We can always accept people, and we can always disagree on policy, but still, love your fellow man. Care about these people. I think that's the approach we have to take, because the minute we don't, it's the minute we become the hegemonic left. My way or the highway. At least that's how I see it. Anyway, just wanted to share that thought with you because a few people were commenting on some comments I'd made online. I'm going to take a quick pause right here. We're coming right back. Your calls and more. Open Phone America, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
I have never been more optimistic about America's possibilities than I am today. Every one of those foreign leaders you saw on television with 32 members of NATO, I'm going to say something outrageous. I'm the guy that pulled NATO together. I was able to expand it. Every time I leave them, they go, you gotta win. Because the other guy says, anyway. But we have real opportunities. And so we got to finish the job. And I promise you, I'm okay. Thank
you. Who remembers a show called Tales from the Crypt? Right? And there was that old guy who was the crypt keeper. He looked like he was dead. That's how Biden just sounded. He sounded, it's okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. He sounds terrible. Unbelievable. And by the way, he invented NATO. So you got Al Gore invented the internet. Now you've got Joe Biden. He's created NATO. These Democrats, they are the most creative bunch out there, I have to say. Now, the reality of all this is Biden is trying to make the case that, he's all right, thank you for everything, blah, blah, blah. There's some people that like him. If you are okay with someone that doesn't seem to be able to do the job, but that person is better than Trump, who is able to do the job, just because he's Trump, then you deserve what you get, right? You deserve a President Biden, I have to say. You don't deserve a President Trump. You don't deserve somebody who's trying to cut your taxes. You deserve somebody who's going to tax and spend you into oblivion. And that's what we have. And that's not good. But what does one do, right? What are you going to do? Anyway, I wanted to I wanted to play, what was the next one? 29, right? 29. This one was the one I wanted to play for you. This is President Biden. He's at a rally in Detroit, Michigan, and he refers to Congresswoman Debbie Dingell as Debbie Haley. Go ahead.
And I got your back as well. Members of Congress, Debbie Haley, and by the way, I want you to know that I've spent a lot of time with Debbie. She's helped me like a lot. And last I forget which event we were at, and someone said, "You're his wife, aren't you?" Because she looks like Jill, my wife.
Now, I'm going to say, I do think Debbie Dingell does look like Jill, his wife. Her maiden name is not what he just said. Her maiden name, is Inslee. So, married name Dingell, maiden name Inslee. I don't know who this person is that he was talking about, but it wasn't the lady that was there. But at least she's alive. Unlike the last time when he was looking for, was it Jackie Spear? He said, "Where's Jackie? Where's Jackie?" And Jackie was killed, and he should have known that, right? It just crazy, the stuff that we're seeing go on. Really, really is. Anyway, I have to take a quick pause right here, come back, wrap it up, and then we go into Open Phone America. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Leader Jeffries and others have made clear they continue to stand with the president. They will stand with the president. They understand that the president is running, is the Democratic nominee, and that the choice in this election is going to be between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. And so as we move forward in the month of July and as we approach the Republican convention, that is where our focus is going to be now moving forward, between the fundamental choice in this election. Joe Biden is going to be the Democratic nominee. Donald Trump is going to be the Republican nominee.
That is Michael Tyler, spokesperson for the Biden campaign, setting the record straight, letting everybody know, look, we're on top of things. He continued.
Joe Biden is, in fact, the Democratic nominee. He is running. Yeah. He is the presumptive Democratic nominee. He will be the Democratic nominee, and he's going to be the one taking on Donald Trump. So that is what we are focused on right now as a campaign, is focusing our attention on the fundamental choice in this election.
Okay, he sounded very confident there. I'll tell you, that's something that I think this campaign needs. Right? I almost believed him when he said that. And my gut tells me he's probably right. If they can't really get Biden out, if they're not willing to play hardball, which it seems like they're not willing to play, right? Because you have to put you have to figure this out. Even if you switch to Kamala Harris, that doesn't guarantee you a win. So then why on earth embarrass yourself by switching candidates? Only if you could have taken credit for making the first black woman president. And it seems like Biden's not budging there. So I don't know. I don't think they do any switcheroo if that's the case. We'll see. I don't know. I'm ready for the ride, folks. And Open Phone America is coming up right now. Don't go anywhere. Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the third hour of the program. It's Friday night, Open Phone America. You guys get to weigh in. This is a time-honored tradition on this program, and if you want to join us, the phone number is 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. Happy to chat with you about whatever is on your mind tonight. Looking forward to it. We talked about a lot tonight. We talked about passive-aggressive behavior, PTSD, Biden's cognitive ability. We went on to discuss the military-industrial complex and how a group of Marines were ambushed. And then after they saved their own lives, they were thrown under the bus by those in the Pentagon. Really, really disheartening story. There's also some other things I want to talk about with respect to the Adderall shortage. We'll get to that at the bottom of this hour. But I want to start off talking a little bit about really the news of the day, right? And that continues to be Joe El Baboso Biden, our president, and how people continually call on him to step down. And it's a big deal, a very big deal, because I've never seen anything like this. I don't know if you have. You got Michael Moore out there saying it's no good. You also have some Republicans that are, obviously going to be trashing Biden, but some are, kind of unexpected. And maybe I'll get into that in a little bit. But we have a few cuts here. There's one I wanted to play for you, because this one I think is kind of telling, right? Congressman Jim Himes, Democrat out of Connecticut, he's on MSNBC yesterday, and in effect, he says quite definitively, I would say, that Biden will lose the presidency, the House, and the Senate. Listen to this.
Can we win this race and save our democracy? And it is so unsexy and so unromantic to say, well, what about the polls? What about, the Cook report? Completely dashes the poetry of campaigning. But the hard reality is, and I'm far from the only Democrat who believes this, that the numbers, the trajectory, what Americans feel in their bones right now suggest not only that Joe Biden would lose this race, but that we would lose the Senate and the House. And the stakes are so high that we need to set aside that loyalty and that poetry and that romance and the charge of the Light Brigade, and we all go down together in favor of some really hard-nosed analysis about whether this is the way forward. And, I've been with the president on a number of occasions, and I have looked at those numbers. No president has ever been reelected with the disapproval ratings that our current president, love him as we do, has. And so I will not stand silent as I see a trajectory to an electoral loss that leads to the presidency of Donald Trump and all that he has promised.
Well, you don't have to sit idly by, but I wish you would, because I would love to just coast right into 4 more years of Trump, honestly. I think there's things from his first round that he realizes I can do better, and I love that. I love that he's going to come in here and do better than he did the first time around. That's my expectation, and I have no real reason to doubt that that's going to be the case, other than losing the House and losing the Senate and having so much power from the Democrats there that we have the kind of situation we had in the past, and I just don't see it happening. I think that Trump will, in effect, have way more power in Congress this go-round than he had in the past, simply because there's going to be that vacuum of Democrats in the majority, because it'll be filled with Republicans. That's my belief. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. But I want to get your thoughts on this. 833-4-VALDEZ, 833-482-5337. Let's go to Allison calling us from Portland, Maine, WLOB. Go right ahead.
Hola. Anyway,
Hola.
I don't know. Thanks for having the major on. That was really amazing and really sad. Yeah, cool. But anyway, I just have, I don't know, Biden's just, oh man, I can't stand him so much. It hurts. It just hurts when I hear his voice. But at the same time, I don't know. I think people are saying, oh, Trump would be able to beat Kamala so easily. And I don't know, because suddenly there'd be so much knee-jerk liberal voting for her just because she's black, right? Or half black.
Or a woman.
Yeah, exactly.
If Congressman Matt Gaetz' prediction on this program is accurate, he believes that she'll choose Gretchen Whitmer. And if that's the case, then you'll have the first ticket in history where it's a woman running and a woman vice president. And again, if they play it right, like I'm saying, she'd be president, right? Biden would step down. She would be sworn in as president, and she'd be running as president for re-election. I think that is a huge way to win. I just don't see it happening. I don't see Biden stepping down. Maybe he does. Maybe he does. I don't know. We'll see. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think he should stay in just because I want Trump to win big time, right? So, but at the same time, every time Biden's voice is on the radio, I just say, oh dear, and these unbelievable gaps he keeps making. I mean, it's just, oh man, these aren't just stumbling over words or something, Anyway, I just thought, wait a minute, if Trump is his vice president, then all he has to do, Biden can resign, and then Trump is president, and we don't even have to have the elections. There we go. So anyway, but that's totally silly. But yeah, I think it's such a mess. And one can think maybe, oh, this has all been a Machiavellian plot all along. They've been playing this, and Biden's going to quit at the last minute, and everybody will be going, yay, yay, it's Kamala. But I don't think so. I think they've just stumbled into all this. It just seems like it, right?
Yeah, I agree. I can't see anybody really putting themselves out there the way Joe Biden's putting himself out there. And Kamala Harris, I think she's pleasantly hoping that she can get a shot at the title. But it seems like Joe Biden's not willing to give her one, and she's not willing to take it either. She's looking to get it, but not to take it. And I think that makes a big difference in how aggressive you are. And I get it. She's being respectful and waiting her turn or whatnot. But this would be the ideal time to get tagged in and say, all right, tag, you're it. Let's go. I don't know if it happens or not. Allison, thank you for your call. Big shout out to everybody listening in Portland, Maine, WLOB in the building. Let us see. Where do we go from here? Let's go to John, San Francisco, California, KNCO. Go right ahead.
Hi, Rich. Good to hear your commentaries tonight, and I agree. Most likely Biden's going to be their guy. He's really the one. I mean, from their point of view, he's really the one that can keep selling what they want to sell. They're kind of government control over everything. And he's still Uncle Joe, kind of likable in a way. Certainly more than all the other alternatives.
Right. And you know what else, John? I think, I agree with that. And I think another big thing here is you don't go and shake things up unless you think it's an absolute win. And they have no reason to believe that Kamala Harris is an absolute winner. So if she's really the only alternative, I mean, there's only one poll out there that says that the only person that can possibly take on Trump and win is Michelle Obama. And unless that's what they're fixing to do, which I just don't see it happening. I don't see Michelle Obama saying, yeah, you know what? I want to spend the rest next 4 years, maybe 8 years back in the White House doing what we did. I feel like she didn't like it that first time around. Unlike Jill and Joe, I think they left the White House and these people are making a fortune now. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm overstating that fact. We'll find out. But I just don't see it happening. She had a chance to run in 2016. She had a chance to run in 2020, and she never took any of those chances. So why not? Because she didn't want it. That's the simple truth. So why would she want it now? The desperation of losing power? Maybe. But I think it's a slim maybe. John?
Yeah. If you want a couple jokes from the New York Post, it's actually a serious article by Miranda Devine today. If you like, her article is called Dems kid glove treatment of Biden, and she kind of explains that, kind of what you're saying. But if you want, here's a couple jokes here in New Yorker. So one was from Wayne Rhodes. He says, even Obama supports LGBTQ plus. Let's get Biden to quit, which is what he's doing, right? And then here's Mel. And then here's Mel Friedman, another New Yorker. He says, you'll like this. If you rearrange the letters of Joe and Kamala, you get a Mala joke, just like your Kamala Harris joke.
Yeah. Oh man, let me tell you, that LGBTQ, that was funny. Let's get Joe to quit. That's very, very funny. That's like a T-shirt in the making right there. John, thank you for that. Right. I appreciate it. Good to hear your voice. Big shout out to everybody in KNCO country out in California. And folks, I'm coming right back with the rest of your calls and more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Valdez. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
The controversy surrounding Old Dominion University professor Dr. Alan Walker centers around their argument that not everyone who is attracted to children will abuse children. In an interview with the Prostasia Foundation, Walker said the term minor attracted people, or MAPS, should be used to describe people who are attracted to children.
It's less stigmatizing than other terms like pedophile. A lot of people, when they hear the term pedophile, they automatically assume that it means a sex offender. And that isn't true, and it leads to a lot of misconceptions about attractions toward minors.
In the interview, Walker stressed child sexual abuse is never okay. They explained there is a difference between attraction and behavior. Walker said there is no morality attached to attraction because that's something we can't help. The Prostasia Foundation's executive director, Jeremy Malcolm, agrees.
What experts like Dr. Walker are saying is that telling these people that they are inherently bad and doomed to offend is counterproductive.
Criticism about Walker's comments prompted ODU and Walker to release statements over the weekend. The statement from the university reads, "An academic community plays a valuable role in the quest for knowledge. A vital part of this is being willing to consider scientific and other empirical data that may involve controversial issues and perspectives." For their part, Walker said, "Child sexual abuse is an inexcusable crime. The goal of my research is to prevent crime. I embarked on this research in hopes of gaining understanding of a group that previously has not been studied in order to identify ways to protect children." Dana Smith, 13 News Now.
So you just heard the report on Professor Alan Walker, who is a transgender individual that runs the trans department or the gender studies department at Old Dominion University. And that report's from last summer, or the summer before last, when I first heard about this term. This term is called minor attracted persons or person, right? Why on earth anybody would support such a thing is beyond me. It really is. But I'll try and paint this picture in the best possible light, right? I feel like there is a movement afoot to normalize a lot of things that are not normal. And I don't say that for the sake of hurting anyone's feelings. I don't say it to be bigoted towards anyone. I say it because I have children. And children, I believe, are precious. They're gifts from God, and they have to be protected. And when you read things, like I'm looking at something from the NIH, the National Institutes of Health, Fauci's parent organization there. This is the government, the U.S. government. Article title, Pedophile, Child Lover, or Minor Attracted Person? Question mark. Attitudes toward labels among people who are sexually attracted to children. And part of the abstract here, listen to this. The primary label for people who are sexually attracted to children, pedophile, is conflated with sexual offending behavior and tainted with stigma. Now, you tell me if that statement is even all fact, right? I guess you could argue it's all fact. I would say no, there's conjecture there. Why? Because just because someone is suffering from pedophilia doesn't mean that they are going after children. Okay, I understand that. Would we do this with someone that says, I want to kill people? I haven't killed them today, but I want to kill people. If that's the case, do we not say that these people are murderers? Are we going to sit here and start splitting hairs and say, oh, well, these are people with murderous tendencies or death-attracted persons? Maybe we will, but I think it's stupid. It's stupid for somebody to know that somebody is suffering in a particular way and then try and normalize this behavior and say, well, they haven't offended yet. Excuse me, are you going to wait till they attack a child? Are you going to wait till this person kills someone? Why on earth would you do that? Now, I'm not saying you take a preemptive strike against somebody who, comes to you in good faith and says, oh, my gosh, I have a problem. I'm attracted to little kids. You help that person however you can. The problem is, how do you help that person? Is there a pill for that? Because one thing I know, and I don't care what your thoughts on this are, honestly, I don't care. I don't believe that this is one of your rights, right? This is not a constitutionally protected right. You don't have a right to, I guess you can have the right to lust after children if you want, but it's not legal for you to take action on that, right? Your desire would harm someone else's ability to be free and safe. So that's a no-go, right? This is not some sort of free speech or liberty issue. It's really not. You're not at liberty to commit crimes against other people. Now, to say, well, I haven't committed the crime, I suffer from the illness that makes me want to commit the crime. In court, I think they call that, conspiracy, right? When you're planning on doing something bad. So I get the gist of it. But the fact that there's a stigma attached to pedophilia, good. There should be a stigma attached to that. Nobody should celebrate this. People that have this disease probably should feel bad. I don't want them to feel good. Really, what good does that bring? I don't know. If you're a doctor and you're thinking, Rich, you're being really wrong here and you're really mean and these people can be redeemed, hey, let me know. But as far as I know, this is no bueno, my friends. No bueno. I'll continue on this a little bit straight ahead, plus your calls. 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. Don't go anywhere. Rich Valdez coming right back.
Best head of hair in live late night radio 6 years in a row. It's Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
So about a month ago, around Memorial Day weekend, there was a retiring senator, a Democrat, state senator from California. And I guess Democrats get to tell the truth when they don't have to face re-election. And kudos to her for doing that, because she blasted the Democrat Party over this fight over sentencing pedophiles in jail. And her quote is, "I'm done with us." Listen to this.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. I'd like to say, as a progressive, proud member of this body for the last 12 years, I'm done. I'm done with us protecting people who would buy and abuse our children. I'm done. I don't want to send more black and brown men to prison. I don't want more people in prison, but I don't want people buying girls. I don't want people buying little girls anymore. And I'm tired of saying it's okay and that we have to protect the men who do it. As a mental health professional and as a social worker, I can tell you I've spent my entire career working with people who have been wounded. I'm not going to say beyond repair, but they have been wounded to their core by the abuse that's been heaped on them, oftentimes by those that they love and look to protect them. And if their parents won't do it, then by God, we should.
That is Democrat Senator Susan Eggman. Again, I believe we played this audio or some version of it about a month ago, 3-4 weeks ago when this happened. But I wanted to play it again because this came up yesterday again, right? SB 1414 came up yesterday, and we played the audio of that, where you had all these people coming in saying that this bill to limit the sale of children was aggressive and unfair towards homosexuals. And again, this is not an attack. I'm sure my critics are going to say, "Oh, there he goes again, being a bigot and a homophobe." And no, I am a defender of children. I think children should be protected. And anytime you tell me I'm going to give a stiffer sentence to somebody that's out there trying to hurt kids or prey on children, why on earth would I not support that? Why would I go, no, this is too stiff. No, this might hurt so-and-so. No, this might put a black or brown person in jail. What do I care who goes to jail? What would I care? Are we here to protect children or to play politics, racial politics? Come on. This is she's right. This woman is absolutely correct. And again, her name is Susan Eggman. She represented part of San Joaquin County just outside of San Francisco. And she gave that fiery speech on the Senate floor, like I said, about 3-4 weeks ago, when her colleagues, the lawmakers in California, were weighing this bill that would make it a felony to purchase or solicit a minor for commercial sex in California. And good on her for doing that. We can't defend people that abuse or buy or sell children. And amen to that. But that's the bill. Senate bill, I believe it's Senate bill 1414, which was authored by a Republican state senator, Shannon Grove, and supported by Eggman, a Democrat. And they're trying to beef up the penalty to at least 2 to 4 years of prison, as well as getting registered on the sex offender registry. But this continues to be up for debate, with bringing in these experts, quote unquote experts, saying that this is unfair. And if you'll recall, we played a clip of that last night. I think we have it handy. Let me know when we have it handy. I want to play it again so you could hear some of the defense of why it's wrong to have this bill. Check this out.
We believe that SB 1414 takes an overly punitive approach that fails to address the root causes of these issues and will not effectively stop sexual violence. We are particularly concerned that the harsher penalties proposed in this bill will disproportionately impact marginalized communities, especially members of the LGBTQ community, who already suffer from systematic biases within the criminal justice system, particularly when it comes to sexually based offenses. Studies have shown that LGBTQ people, particularly gay and transgendered individuals, are more likely to be charged with sex offenses compared to their heterosexual counterparts. For instance, LGBTQ individuals are 9 times more likely to be charged with sodomy. Measures like SB 1414 lead to higher rates of incarceration, longer sentences, and increased difficulties in finding housing and employment.
Today, EBC must strongly oppose Senate Bill 1414 for the reasons I will state. We stand
before we get into this part. This woman just said a lot of things, and look, I don't have the clinical data that she's looking at, but from a common sense perspective, right, or a logic logical perspective, a deductive reasoning perspective. If you're telling me that certain individuals are, which he said, LGBTQ and trans, have a higher rate of being convicted of sodomy, is it safe to say that they are likely engaging in sodomy more than others, than heterosexuals? I think that would be fair to say, right? If you go to a place where there's a bunch of men married to women, wherever the place is, and you go to this place and you say, wow, the percentage or the incidence of these people being arrested for sodomy is so much lower. Okay, makes sense, right? These are married people and they're married to women. But men who are engaged with other men, I mean, does that not make sense to you? I feel like I can't believe I'm hearing the things I'm hearing just because they don't make sense. Not because of anything else, right? Not because I think they're immoral, not because they're sinful, not because of, those are all secondary arguments that people may want to make. That's fine. I'm just arguing the logic of it. It's devoid of logic to say that because LGBTQ or trans individuals suffer a higher rate of incarceration, that we should not make it a stiffer penalty to buy children for the sake of sex. What do I care about these people? I don't care what they are. They could be Puerto Rican people. They could be Republican people. They could be whoever you want them to be. Christian people. I don't care who you are. If you're going after kids, you should pay the price. And we should have the highest and most robust deterrent available. That's just my thought. I mean, maybe it's draconian, but I have children. Maybe if you haven't had children, you don't have this sense of passion. Maybe you've had a dog. Would you like someone to rape your dog? No, of course not. So just imagine if you have a child. Absolute insanity, right? Or a puppy. Nobody would allow that. And if somebody said we're going to make it a crime, a more severe crime, to go after puppies, and then someone else says, oh, we can't do that because people that are attacking puppies or getting convicted of attacking puppies happen to be part of the LGBTQ plus community or trans, and we don't want that. How would I care what you want? You're attacking puppies or you're going after children. To me, it just makes all the sense in the world. Anyway, I want to get your thoughts on that. Let me know what you think of what's coming out of California. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, America, welcome back. Going straight to the phones, 833-4-VALDEZ, 833-482-5337. Let's go to La Crosse, Wisconsin, WIZM, and check in with Gina. Gina, welcome. You're on with Rich Valdez.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. I just told him, I guess I'll tell you again. My nephew, my nephew was convicted of, he downloaded some child pornography. He didn't contact anybody. He didn't touch anybody. He did a year in prison and was given 10 years probation and to be on the sex offender registry. Okay, so his time is up now. He has committed no crimes, done anything wrong. Well, he's down in Milwaukee. The governor in Milwaukee decided that anybody who has ever been convicted of this crime as a sex offender must stay on the registry for life. We find that so very unfair because we were so looking forward to the day when he could walk free, go into the school with his children, things like this. And I don't know how to go about changing it. I just think it's really unfair. You know, I can understand the law.
Why do you think it's unfair?
Because because they changed it. Because they changed the law, and his deal was what his deal was. You know what I'm saying? He did his time. He's committed no his probation officer and everybody find him to be no threat. He never followed through on anything. I totally believe that anybody who could possibly be a threat needs to be watched. I'm to protect our kids. But I don't think
here's what I'll say, Gina, and I appreciate you sharing that story, and I wish everyone in your family the best. I would say this. I think that I believe in redemption. I believe in rehabilitation. I believe in forgiveness. I believe in all of those things. I also believe Jesus said, "Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's." And in a situation like this, this is the current lay of the land. If you don't like it, you run a campaign against it to try and get your legislators to change it. But from the perspective of a parent, I'll share with you that I would never feel comfortable knowing that there is a person that took sexual enjoyment or pleasure from child pornography, and although they were never caught doing these things, and maybe they claim they've never done these things, I can't imagine how someone would find child pornography something they enjoy and not actually want to be with children, or only after they were caught no longer have this attraction to children. The last place I would want someone like that to be is in a school with children. So, and that's just me as a parent speaking. So I understand why many states are making these things more difficult, because for a long time, as we're seeing in California, Democrats have been softening these laws, making it so that, maybe you get a slap on the wrist now, or you get probation, or you do your time, and then it goes away. The problem is, this is one of those things that this is not like, hey, I don't know, I decided to, whatever crime you want to commit. There are people that commit crimes, make mistakes, and learn from these mistakes. I personally am not convinced that pedophilia is one of those crimes, only because every time I read about it, it's listed in the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, meaning it is mental illness, right? There's no cure for this. In most societies, they do away with these people, or they incarcerate them. I'm not saying we should do that with every single person. I think you have to be guilty first to get that type of fate. But I do realize that no child should live in an environment where there are people that potentially will harm you, or at least want you in a sexual manner. And I just think of it from the other perspective of the person. Imagine living the life of a person where you wake up and you are sexually attracted to a child, and you have to go to work, go to wherever you go throughout your day, and see these children and be around them, and know that you can't have them, and just deal with that. And I guess many addicts deal with that as well, but it's not addiction, it's mental illness. And there isn't a cure for it, as much in so far as I know. So I just think this is a very unique situation, and it's a very tough situation that I think stiffer penalties are definitely the way to go, especially when you look at some of the history of these things, right? And this is as old as sin itself. But a few weeks ago, I talked about a practice known as bacha bazi. And this is the practice that was, in ancient Greece, they called it pederasty. It's literally parents that were giving up their children, usually their young boy children, to the elders of the community, the wise men of the town, saying, hey, here's my boy. Use him for however you want to use him, but just teach him stuff so that he can be smart like you. And in Afghanistan, this process of bacha bazi is a custom. And it was historically in a place called Turkestan, which was, once Afghanistan. And it involves this sexual slavery and child prostitution by older men of young preteen boys. And this is something the Taliban did not accept, but others that were working with the U.S. government during the time that they took over Afghanistan did accept, and many of them were police. So just imagine the police were able to rape young boys, or these boys were giving themselves to them because of the fear of if they didn't. right? And when you look at it like that, you think, man, if we don't have these laws that are really strict in the U.S., we could end up with bachabazi, right? And it seems like it's a faraway thing, but it may not be that far away. So I understand that this is your family member. And again, I wish him absolutely the best. And I believe in redemption. And I have actually known a colleague once that got into a similar situation. And I try to be sympathetic. But from a purely honest perspective as a parent, and if I had to vote on this as a member of the community, I would vote for stiffer penalties and to say, hey, look, you can live and you can have all the things in life that you want to have except for children, and you can't have them here, and you can't live within X amount of feet of a school, and there's got to, for the rest of your life, because that ultimately protects the child and protects you from, reoffending in any way. My thoughts. Thank you for your call, Gina. I appreciate it. We're coming right back with the rest of your calls and more straight ahead.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, America, welcome back. It is the speed round, and we've got calls from Oregon, Idaho, Montana, Missouri, West Virginia, Florida, Illinois, and more. I want to go to, let's see, where do we go? Man, so many good people here. Let us go to Glenn, Fort Walton Beach, Florida, WFTW. Go right ahead.
Hey, Rich.
What's up,
Can you
bro?
hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear. Running out of time. Go for it.
I love you, brother. Thank you for what you do. I just wanted to talk about the Trump's vice presidential pick.
Sure.
My wife earlier said she got a text message or seen on TikTok that he picked DeSantis. I told her that's got to be fake because he hasn't picked anybody yet. But
Yeah.
I think his best pick would be Don Jr. He's not a politician. He's definitely close to Trump. And I think maybe he could run for president next
Yeah,
term.
well, listen, I like Don Jr., and he has a similar, I guess, path like Trump would have, where he worked in business, executive vice president of the Trump organization, non-politician, kind of outsider, common sense kind of guy. I don't know how the rest of the country wants to, will feel about that. Again, electing another outsider. I feel like things are cyclical and there's like an ebb and flow. But I would say I'm not shocked if the DeSantis thing becomes a thing, because I do think for 2028 DeSantis would be a solid candidate. He just wasn't a solid candidate this go around. But we shall see. I mean, I'm really this is a nail biter. We got to wait till I guess Thursday to find out, because I can only imagine Trump's going to stretch it out till the very, very end. But yeah, very good pick. I mean, I haven't seen him on the short list, but you can't be too disappointed with Don Jr. Glenn, thank you for your kind words. I appreciate you. And let me see, who else do we have here? Monica, Pendleton, Oregon. We don't have a lot of time. Go for it.
That's okay. Hey, I want to touch real quick that I am also a parent, and anyone looks at my 15-year-old daughter, just if they look at one hair follicle the wrong way, Mama Bear is on her.
That's it. Mama Bear's got to be on the job. Monica on KUMA, thank you for your call. I want to give a quick thanks to Frank in Evergreen on KOFI, Andrea in Stover. Let's see, Bob on WCHS, Sherry in Bakersville. Aw, too bad. WGN. Love all of y'all. I'll be back on Monday. God bless.